Hare Krishna, all the devotees. My humble obeisances to all of you. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. So we are in the last part of the shloka, fifth chapter. Today, Krishna willing, we will also be entering the sixth chapter, which will be the last chapter of this unit. So before we start, we will offer prayers to Guru Parampara. Om Ajnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmelitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtham Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sa Agrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurapani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantaradha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Kaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mokam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. Offering prayers to Lord Krishna. Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya Gitamrita Dubhe Namaha. Let's quickly recite the shlokas, all the shlokas of this unit today. Karpanya Dosho Pahata Swabhava Prichami Tvam Dharma Sammudha Cheta Yashreyasya Nishchitam Bruhi Tanme Shishyasteham Shadhimam Swam Prapannam Dehinosmen Yatha Dehe
Tata Devantara Prapti Tira Satnana Munyate
Najayate Mriyate Vagdachi Ayam Bhutva Karita Vanam Ajo Nitya
Shashvatoyam Purana
Nyate Anyamane Shri Yogaishwarya Prasakta
Vyapata Chetasam Karmika Buddhi Madavna Vidiyate
Prakrite Kriyamana
Gune Karmani Sarvasha Sankara Vimudatma Karta Hamiti Manyate
Evam Paramparam
Parapraptam Imam Rajakshayo Vidu Sakale Mata Anantapa
Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Chadushkritam
Dharma
Samstapaya Sambhavami Yuge
Yuge
Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam Evam Yovedhi Tattvataha Tyaktva Deham Punarjanma Iti Tadviddhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadeshyanti Te Jnanena Sattvadarshina Yahi Samsparshja Bhuga Mukkhayonaya Evate Adyantavantah Kaunteya Nateshu Ramate Buddha Bhoktaram Yajñatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Ishvaradam Sarvabhutanam Jnatva Mam Shantim Yoginam api sarvesham Madgadenantaratmana Shraddhavan Bhajate Mam Tame Tatamanyatah. Hare Krishna. So last time we had ended the discussions And shloka number 23.
Prabhuji, 23 we finished.
23 we completed, very right. So today we will take it ahead. Before we go there, that is the exact shloka from there, I would like to just give a small recap of where are we in the 5th chapter. The 5th chapter, which is titled as Karma Sannyasa Yoga traditionally, or Prabhupada calls it Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness, is very similar to 3rd chapter. This is something which we should always keep in mind. But at the same time, it is dealing with the subject at a much deeper level. It is the advanced form of Karma Yoga. We had seen this. So, Srila Prabhupada titles it as Action in Krishna Consciousness. So, in this, the first section was actually a reply to Arjuna's answer. His question was, I should fight or I should renounce? A similar question which he asked in 3rd chapter. And Prabhupada explains how Karma Yoga is easier, is better, and hence superior, as Krishna also did the explanation. And after that Nishkama Karma Yogi, how he practices, that was described. And an essential understanding or realization of this Karma Yogi is that understanding of Ishvara, Jiva, and Prakriti. He is not the sole result or cause of the action. He is not the sole cause of the action. Prakriti, in fact, is very great factor. And over and above all of them, both Jiva and Prakriti, both of them is Ishvara. We had seen this interdependence last time. And a summary of it also I am showing it here just so that we quickly go over it. It's a very important concept which comes in the 5th chapter. From here on, Karma Yogi starts to realize how great is this Paramatma. He is sitting as if he is neutral. He is sanctioning the desire of the Jiva, sometimes which is contrary to his own interest. But at the same time, he respects the free will of the Jiva. So we saw that the soul, it has this minute independence of desire, free will. And Lord, as a super soul, Bhagavan's expansion is super soul, he sanctions. He sanctions. He is not affected by the reactions. He is transcendental. He only sanctions. And everything external to the Atma or the Jiva, that is body, that is physical body with the senses, mind, intelligence, and ego. All this comes under modes of material nature. And it also includes sense objects. All of them, they follow the sanction of the Supreme Lord and help soul fulfill its desire to enjoy, which is practically speaking, it doesn't get satisfaction because it's material enjoyment. But whatever desire the soul has, Prakriti facilitates based on the sanction of the Supreme Lord. And when we talk about the responsibility of the result of action, it should be towards the soul. The soul, because it is covered by ajnana, ignorance, ajnanena vritam jnanam. So because of which it desires matter, because it identifies with the matter. Prabhupada explains from time immemorial, this association of soul has happened with the matter. So he says the solution is to disassociate, and that is possible when he identifies with super soul. So this is a very natural way to get detached, that is identifying with super soul or the Supreme Lord ultimately. So this was explained as a solution in this section. And one who understands this, he attains actually an illumination, adityavajnanam, of enlightenment. And following this, we also saw what is the way in which such a person who is now focusing on Paramatma. Till now, Nishkama Karma Yogi, conventional understanding, he was focusing on Atma And he knew, okay, Supreme Lord is there, I have to offer him the results. But he did not have great understanding of. Now he's begun to understand Paramatma. And now his meditation starts more on Paramatma. Such a person who has who is now focusing on Paramatma, how does he see the world? That was an important section from 18 to 22. Last time we did complete this section. He has an equal vision, not just seeing everyone as spirit soul, but everyone is accompanied by super soul. An improvement or an evolution in his understanding has come. And the famous shloka, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, that was told in that context. And after that, how he, becoming more focused on Paramatma, naturally becomes detached from matter. Bahya sparsheshu asaktatma. Yahi samsparshaja bhoga dukkhayo naya evate. Those two shlokas are also explained. He sees that the enjoyment of this world is source of misery. It is temporary, it is limited. Adi antavantaha. And knowing this, it doesn't engage in them. Na teshu ramade buddha. And also we saw how, today we will see that shloka, where he absorbs more in an internal state, antararama, that will come today. So this we had completed, and he starts to show his vision externally by his actions from 23 onwards. How do we see a Paramatmavadi acting in the world? What is his behavior? Is seen from next 3 to 4 shlokas till 26. In that we saw the 23rd shloka. We will quickly see the translation of it, the 23rd shloka, and then we will take it ahead. So first of all, how does he act in the verse? The first thing is he knows that this effect of being in this material body, this effect of being in this material world, the effect is a constant disturbance or agitation by lust, envy, anger, and all, etc. He is going to be there till the time he is there in this body. Knowing this, he doesn't try to satisfy it, he only tolerates. That's the first way he behaves. Sodhum, that's the important keyword in this. Sodhum. Can someone read this translation?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Please read. Yeah. Yes.
Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world.
One who tolerates is happy, not one who satisfies the mind's dictations or the urges. So that was told in Upadeshamrita too. Prabhupada recalls that understanding, how one should control one's urges and become a Goswami. Every spiritualist should try to control his desires born of mind. Going ahead, we are now continuing from where we had left off last time. He further describes his behavior. The first behavior is he tolerates. Second is he is self-satisfied. He is in fact satisfied within, because he derives a great happiness within. Yonta sukontara ramas.
Yonta sukhontara ramas. This antaha means inside, Antaha sukha means happiness within. Antararama, he derives great relish within. Antararama, antaha sukha, antarjyoti, all that comes. Tathantar jyotirevaya. Sayogi brahma nirvanam. Brahma bhutodhigacchati. So deriving a great happiness within, antah sukha, deriving great relish. He is so absorbed, like we say Atma Ram, one who is self-satisfied, Antararam. He doesn't hanker for things outside of him. He is happy with himself. Antararama. Tatha antarjyotihi. He is also aiming for internal growth, not so much about external accomplishments, validation or appreciation, respect. No, he is more aiming within. Such a person, he is said to be in fact attained the Supreme Lord or liberation, Brahma Nirvanam. He has attained the Brahma Bhuta stage, a very advanced stage of spiritual consciousness. When I was reading this, I remembered the description of Haridas Thakur. Of course, in the devotional context, we can derive so many examples of devotees who were so happy, relishing bhakti within, not really. It's an advanced stage, as we are already seeing. It's an advanced stage of even karma yoga also. So surely this is not something which is to be imitated. It should be observed. In fact, it should be cultivated, and it takes time. So Prabhupada describes the translation and purport. Please read the translation and purport, Mataji.
One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme.
Ultimately means it takes time, so it's not something quick, overnight. He perseveres in that path. Read the highlighted part.
Unless one is able to relish happiness from within, how can one retire from the external engagements meant for deriving superficial happiness? A liberated person enjoys happiness by factual experience. He can, therefore, sit silently at any place and enjoy the activity of life from within.
Actually, there is a lot of stress in Vedic scriptures about Nivritti Marga, which is renunciation path. In fact, in any genuine spiritual path, it is surely there. At the same time, one cannot truly be situated in renunciation, that is denial of happiness of this world, unless one actually starts tasting happiness at the spiritual platform. Prabhupada gives this simple example in one of the lectures. One who has gotten a dry roti, he is somehow living in the world. But when he gets a rasagulla, he is ready to leave that dry roti for that rasagulla. So, person who has gotten a superior happiness, he very easily leaves material happiness. Renunciation, which is born of frustration or a disappointment in the material world, may be good in the beginning, but it will not sustain a person. But when it is born, and in fact, when it is made strengthened by the association and attraction to the Supreme Lord, it can really sustain. It can be very, very deep also. That is the understanding of renunciation in bhakti, especially what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught. So here we can see Prabhupada puts a very nice question. Unless one is able to relish happiness within, how can one renounce or retire from external sense engagements? Their promises are very, very appearing tangible. How can one deny those promises and be renounced or retired? Only when he is deriving a higher happiness. A soul cannot be sitting idle or becoming inert. That is not the nature of this. It is always seeking happiness. If not material, spiritual. In fact, that is its original state. Because it is not able to derive happiness at spiritual state, it is deriving happiness at a material platform. So, the Vedanta Sutra also says this, Anandamayo Abhyasa. The soul is always searching for Ananda. So, one who is at this stage, he is deriving happiness within. He is so deeply satisfied within. He is aiming also for internal growth and perfection. Further describing the other actions or behaviors. So two behaviors we have seen so far. The first one was he tolerates. Second is he is happy within. He is relishing the happiness within. Now comes another behavior. Text 25. Labhante brahma nirvanam.
Labhante Brahma Nirvanam.
Rishaya kshina kalmasha.
Rishaya Krishna Kalmasha.
Rishaya kshina kalmasha, not Krishna.
Rishaya
Kshina kalmasha.
Kshina kalmasah.
Otherwise, the meaning becomes very opposite. Chinnadvaidhaya tatmana.
Mana
Sarvabhuta hite rata.
Sarvabhute Hite Rata.
So the next behavioral symptom of his is that he is kshina kalmasha. He is becoming pure. Kshina kalmasha. All the dirt is getting reduced. Kshin hota ja raha hai. Kshina. And he is chinna dvaidha. All the dualities are also getting destroyed. The affect by the dualities. Here, duality, chinna dvaidha means affect by the dualities. And the important defining symptom told in this shloka is sarva bhuta hite rata. He is absorbed, rataha, in the hita. Hita means hit. Sorry. What does
Good, Prabhuji, good.
good or benefit or welfare, So sarva bhuta hita means all the jivas welfare. He is absorbed in doing welfare for all the jivas. This is the third symptom of a person who has begun to understand or meditate on Super Soul. So he has withdrawn, he's not engaging in the world. In fact, he's tolerating all the urges. He is happy within. He is relishing the happiness within. Now, what he does, to the society, he's just living in the society. No, he actually works for the benefit, the ultimate welfare of all the jivas. So here comes very important contribution of such a realized person to the society. He wants to benefit the soul, not just the body. Prabhupada in the purport highlights this aspect only. How a person who has understood Krishna consciousness, he is doing the greatest welfare. When we say greatest welfare, it is not just the body, not just the mind, not just the intelligence, but soul. And when we say we are serving the interest of the soul, we are providing the association of Krishna, purification by the association of Krishna, and the knowledge aspect that is also very much there, and adding the spiritual credits, which is very important for its journey. And when we are telling that we are doing the highest welfare for the soul, naturally the welfare for body, mind, and intelligence is included. It is not to be seen separate, like Srila Prabhupada always says this: when we are serving the interests of the soul, the needs of body, mind are already included. We will see that how it is done in the purport. Please read translation.
Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose mind are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and those who are free from all sins achieve liberation in the Supreme.
So the one important line also is the Labhante Brahma Nirvanam. So they attain the Supreme Lord's association. That's told here. So Sarva Bhuta Hite Rata, very important symptom. The third symptom or behavioral symptom. Read the highlighted part.
He smiled, contented.
Only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. When a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. One cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme.
In the first meeting of Srila Prabhupada with his Guru Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, this was the discussion. So Abhay Charan, the earlier name of Srila Prabhupada, he was following the path of first getting the country free from the hands of foreign rulers and then focus on spiritual development. That is, he was trying to do that freedom struggle as the highest welfare. But Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur told the highest welfare for a jiva is to provide Krishna consciousness. It is the lack of Krishna consciousness which is the cause of misery. He told it so boldly. He told that all types of welfare activities can wait, but this cannot wait. Because the soul has gotten this human body after so many lifetimes. And to not give this highest welfare will be, in one sense, the greatest disservice, if not violence or torture at the level of soul. So knowing this, the spiritualist, he never loses an opportunity to benefit the soul. It can be by giving direct knowledge in the form of books, lectures, or speech, or talk or whatever. Or it could be giving association of Krishna through prasadam, through various articles, through giving an appreciation for the deities in many, many ways. So basically, doing the highest welfare for the soul is to give association of Krishna in many, many ways, which Srila Prabhupada has given through kirtan, through prasadam, through books. Any other ways? Would you like to add any other ways?
Sankirtan.
Sankirtan, yes. Festivities. Even engaging in service, not knowing that whom it's rendered, that's fine, but engaging in service.
Deity worship.
Deity worship, yeah. All these, to engage people, that's the highest welfare for this. So Prabhupada also says this is the highest welfare, and one cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work unless one is liberated in the Supreme. One who has realized this can truly do that welfare. Like, we are also trying to do some type of book distribution, some form of now book distribution is soon approaching. The emphasis is given, especially in this last month of the year. So we are also doing preaching, but we are not liberated, surely, at least I'm. So how are we really doing first-class welfare work? So truly speaking, it is the pure devotees and the Uttama Adhikaris who can actually do this welfare. Like Srila Prabhupada, they can actually do the preaching or welfare. What we are doing is to allow the conditioned souls to access Srila Prabhupada, through books, through the movement of ISKCON. In all these ways, we are actually connecting the souls to the parampara. We are like assistants, like a peons. Prabhupada also calls that word. So actually, they have Krishna and they can award Krishna to the souls. So this is the third symptom or behavior of one who is focusing on Sukha Soul. What are the earlier ones? Please remind.
One who tolerates and one who enjoys within.
One who enjoys within, and one who is now doing the great welfare, working for the welfare of all living. Now there is further. Okay, please read this part. The person engaged.
A person engaged only in the ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory.
So you sometimes people blame that you spiritual practitioners are not doing for the welfare of the country, the society. They don't appreciate really the spiritual welfare so much. And they accuse you're spending so much of money and the time and energy on something which is not in experience of everyone. You're worshipping some statues or idols. Instead, you can serve food to the poor, provide education for the deprived. So such kind of accusations they make. How would you respond, any of you? Has it come into you in your experience? How do you respond? Any of you?
Roji, can you please repeat the question?
My question is, when people accuse that you spiritualists or devotees are not doing much for the welfare of society, and they don't understand the spiritual welfare as the highest. So they accuse of you being lazy, not doing to the society. Better you feed poor, provide for education, open hospital. They accuse all these kind of objections they make. Why are you unnecessarily spending so much of money on temples, on deities, on these festivals? Instead, you do this. The very famous accusation has been there all the time. So how do you respond? That's my question. All of your preachers I have heard, so surely you must have come across.
I had one discussion earlier with one person, Roji, in our community.
Yeah.
So temple was collecting some funds. So they said instead of giving funds to the temple, we can give it to orphanage or some poor people so that they'll have something to eat. So I told him just one thing. So I asked him how much you spent for your house interiors. He said around 30 lakhs he spent. So why did you spend 30 lakhs? Instead of spending 30, you could have spent 20 and 10 lakhs you would have donated to an orphanage. So people don't talk about it. They talk only when it comes to the temple.
True. Yes. You can see the hypocrisy there. Huh?
Yes,
Only when someone is spending for God, they become so much humanitarian. Huh?
Yes.
That voice of humanitarian shouts comes loud. Anyone else want to add? Mataji told very strong and pointing words to the person, remaking him realize.
Yeah, Prabhuji, we can mention like Madhav Seva is equal to Manav Seva, not Manav.
Oh, really? Madhav Seva and Manav Seva are equal?
No, Madhav Seva is better than Manav Seva.
Better than Manav Seva, okay. Yeah. There was some discussion in the Ishopnisha. I'm just trying to prod it here. In one of the verses, Prabhupada highlights this. So when people are, anyone want to add, please, we're happy to hear. I don't see many of the videos on. I'm not sure how people are attending. So when people are accusing devotees or spiritualists in general of this, what are they actually speaking? As Mataji currently pointed out, it is actually envy of people towards God, envy of conditioned soul towards God. Whenever God is in the limelight, the conditioned soul who is so envious, he cannot tolerate. He comes with so many excuses to somehow remove God from the limelight. So he derives, he comes to this kind of famous accusations. You see carefully how much we do for our own body, our own comforts. And if we spend, actually, Supreme Lord is Supreme Proprietor. Whatever do is so less. I always give this example because it is so vivid in my memory. When there was a very famous diamond throne offered to Lord Krishna in a temple in South at Udupi. There was so much of protest on that sannyasi who was trying to do it. And he replied saying that when very recently a US president came, that time it was Clinton, when he came, so much of money was spent on just arranging a hospitality for him. And that too, how long he stays as president? Hardly a few years. And actually he was sacked out he was so, his character was not good, so he was sacked out. So for such a person, we are spending lakhs and lakhs of rupees for maybe few days of his stay. And when here God is staying, he has come as deity, and when we are worshipping him, we are not asking you to put money here. We are spending money. If you are giving money, that's your benefit which you get. Why are you so doing this? We are offering to the Lord. At the same time, he also told any temple is also so much serving the society. See, very traditionally, every temple serves prasadam freely, at least once or twice in a day, and to all people. There is so much of welfare activities go, but they don't project it as that's the great work we are doing. Actually, it is done very naturally. A true spiritualist, he also takes care of body and mind of the jivas. Very naturally, it happens as a byproduct. But his main focus is how to give Krishna. Temples were the centers of learning, education. Temples were feeding so many people. Temples were the centers of art expressions. So much, there was so much of health advices given, legal advices given. Temples were like the center of the whole Vedic culture. It is not just only worshipping Lord. That is in fact the central purpose of the temple. But along with that, all these are happening. So those people who are blind to this, who are envious to the Supreme Lord, they come up with these accusations, and they derive so much nice thing, so much nice quotations they make. Manav Seva, Madhava Seva, Jana Seva, Janardhana Seva. They say you serve those who are in front of you than serving that person who is not in front of you. They make such nice quotations, look very noble, but it's actually expression of envy. We are not saying that we should not serve the body and mind of the jiva, but do not neglect or reject the service to the Supreme Lord, which is actually the welfare of the soul. You cannot equate service or welfare done to the soul and in the same platform as the welfare done to the body. You cannot equate serving the Supreme Lord with the welfare activities done to the body and mind. That's not right sometimes. So Prabhupada is so, sometimes in the purports he comes and tells, he comes out telling opening hospitals, opening schools. People think that is the spiritual activity. No, that's not spiritual. In fact, those spiritualists who do it and who show this as the highest activity of theirs, they are not truly practicing spirituality. They are not truly practicing Krishna consciousness. There are some spiritual organizations and they claim this is their main work. What? Opening hospitals, opening schools. No, that's all. For that, you cannot use God's knowledge for that purpose alone. No, that's not the highest purpose of a spiritual society, at least. So, a person who is focused on super soul, he is doing the highest welfare for all the jivas, that is, especially to the soul, by avoiding the association of Lord Krishna. So that is the important behavior. So going ahead, the last behavior of such a person is told in this shloka. Kama krodha vimuktanam.
Kama krodha
Kamakrodha
Yatinam yatachetasam.
Yatinam
Yatachetasam
Abhito brahma nirvanam.
Abhito Brahma
Abhito
Nirvanam
Brahmanam
Vartate viditatmanam.
Vartate
Tate
Viditatmana.
Viditatmana.
So this symptom is kind of a, you can say an attitude, but nonetheless it's very described very nicely here. So what he does, yatinam yatachetasam, he is very strict in his efforts. He very sincerely puts his efforts to meditate on the super soul in his spiritual activities. And abhitaha brahma nirvanam. The word important in the shloka is abhitaha. Can someone please see the word-to-word meaning of abhita? Abhita.
Assured in the near future.
assured in the near future. So he is striving to control himself from kama and krodha, to protect himself from kama and krodha, and he is putting his sincere efforts. At the same time, he knows the goal he is trying to attain is a very lofty goal. So he is very patient. He's very patient and he's trying to put his sincere effort. This he knows. Vartate viditatmana. Read the translation, Mataji.
Of the saintly persons who are constantly engaged in striving towards salvation, one who is in Krishna consciousness is the best of all. Oh, sorry, Prabhuji.
You read translation. Yeah.
Sorry. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future.
The very near future. So Prabhupada clearly says that. So he is patient. He's putting his best efforts, but he is patient. That's his another behavior. He's patient. He knows actually Lord helps such a person in various ways. In this purport, there is one very nice shloka which Prabhupada quotes from one of the Puranas, which shows how compassionately Lord helps such a jiva, especially a devotee. We will see that. Please read the highlighted part of the saintly persons.
Of the saintly persons who are constantly engaged in striving towards salvation, one who is in Krishna consciousness is the best of all.
Best of all. So Prabhupada quotes a shloka from Bhagavatam which says the desire to enjoy, which is very deep rooted, gratitham, it is very deep, karmashayam gratitham. Such a deep rooted desire to enjoy is taken out, is pulled out very naturally when a person serves Supreme Lord. It is very difficult for even great yogis, sages, rishis to become freed from this desire to enjoy. But for a devotee who has developed, who is worshipping Vasudeva, the Supreme Lord, Bhaja Vasudevam, for him, his heart is filled with so many desires to serve Krishna that this desire to enjoy selfishly is overpowered by the desires to serve Lord Krishna. That's how he becomes very naturally freed from this deep-rooted desire to enjoy. Prabhupada highlights below. Please read this, Mataji. In the conditioned soul.
In the conditioned soul, the desire to enjoy the fruitive results of work is so deep-rooted that it is very difficult even for the great sages to control such desires, despite great endeavors. A devotee of Lord, constantly engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, perfect in self-realization, very quickly attains liberation in the
Very
Supreme.
quickly attains this liberation. What that is very difficult for even great sages who are not devotees, who have not understood Krishna, serving Krishna. That is the freedom from this deep-rooted desire to enjoy is very quickly achieved for a devotee who is constantly engaged in service of Lord. Now, Prabhupada quotes a very famous shloka. This is from a Purana actually. The shloka says, I'm showing it in a slide here. It says that there are three creatures, fish, matsya, or a tortoise, kurma, vihanga, that is a bird. They take care of their offsprings in specific ways. It is told that the fish lays its eggs in water only, and it is by its vision, it is nourishing its offspring. Sometimes there are small fishes which are directly coming from the body of the fish, but it is actually caring or nourishing the offsprings, the small fish children of it, by vision, by its vision. Please remember the way in which each of these offer nourishment to their offsprings. So fish offers nourishment by what? Vision. Darshana. Now Prabhupada tells that tortoise it offers its nourishment to offspring, especially it lays its eggs in the sand, in the shore. Sometimes it covers up and it has to come back to the water because that's not very safe for it, to stay on the land. People will easily come and catch it. It's a very slow moving animal. So it goes back to the water, but always it is thinking, meditating on the eggs in the shore. By constantly thinking dhyana, the tortoise is nourishing, is maintaining its offspring. The first fish, how it offered nourishment or maintenance?
Through
Right.
vision.
Vision. By the kurma, the tortoise, how it offered nourishment?
By meditating.
By meditation. And lastly, the vihanga, the birds. So how do they offer nourishment?
By touch.
By touch. Sparsh.
What does that mean? Can someone please explain?
Mm.
It's something generic. I'm not asking you anything.
Prabhuji,
It's
Ah,
on
they
the
lay
egg.
eggs and they sit on the eggs.
They sit on it. Practically, they are so much in touch with their offspring. They are practically staying with the offspring. After that also, after it's hatched out also, they are caring for it so much by touch. Now, very interesting, the Supreme Lord tells this shloka to, it's not very clear, Padmaja is the one who is addressed as, oh, Padmaja, I do like this. The Supreme Lord is telling to Padmaja. Padmaja could mean Brahma or it could be Lakshmi. So he is describing how he offers nourishment to his bhaktas or in general jivas. He does it by all three ways. By vision. He's seeing as Paramatma, especially his devotees. He's always seeing. He's seeing to his devotees' welfare. Later in Bhagavadgita, very famous shloka comes telling how Krishna takes care of his devotees. Any of you know? Of course, this shloka is way ahead. I'm just asking. Any of you know that very famous shloka where Krishna tells, I take care of my devotees personally. Please say again, your voice is breaking. Say again. I could not hear. Completed. Yes, right, completed. Yogakshemam vahamyaham. Yes, life insurance people, they use that tagline. But their Yogakshema is only after we leave our bodies. Is it not? But Lord is giving us Yogakshema when we are in this body and even after we leave this body. So Lord does it through vision. He's always thinking about his devotees. Lord is thinking about it. We think that only we have to think about Lord. Does Lord think? Here he's telling that I think about my devotees. He's seeing the devotees personally. He is, in fact, thinking about the devotees. And he is in touch with the devotees through his pure devotees, through his very dear devotees who are representing him, spiritual masters. So by that touch or guidance also is nourishing the children. So Prabhupada quotes this shloka to make us understand how in the path of devotional service, we are so much helped. In other paths, this help is not there. You may remember in Upanishad, these kind of benefits are very specially available for one who is practicing bhakti. So when one starts to focus on Paramatma and Bhagavan, he starts to receive this benefits. So Prabhupada says, knowing this, loving guidance or maintenance by the Supreme Lord, a jiva should be very patient. A yogi should be very patient, having that faith on the Lord. Read this highlighted part, please. Read the highlighted part, Mataji.
The fish brings up its offspring simply by looking at them. The tortoise brings up its offspring simply by meditating. Similarly, the devotee in Krishna consciousness, although far away from the Lord's abode, can elevate himself to that abode simply by thinking of him constantly by engagement in Krishna consciousness.
So Prabhupada reverses the equation to make us become responsible for our spiritual progress. He says, Lord is always thinking of you, but a devotee should think about Lord constantly for his own benefit. Don't become passive. Oh yeah, Lord is nourishing me, maintaining me. No, you serve Lord. That is your offering or your advancement actually. In that sense, Lord is Prabhupada is giving that call for action. So far what we saw in this particular chapter, a yogi who was karma yogi who was focused on Atma and he was progressing. Slowly his focus has changed to Paramatma and he is now advancing. As he further progresses, his meditation on Paramatma becomes so strong, and that is when the stage of the last stages of Ashtanga Yoga start appearing. So a karma yogi who is practicing, doing his duties, at one point of time he comes to such a stage of purification that he renounces the actions also. So far he was renouncing the results of action, but he was doing his duties. This is usually the case when one is practicing in the world. But when one enters Vanaprastha and Sannyasa, he can either choose Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Is it not? So traditionally speaking, that's how the progression happens. But Krishna, he advises, you do not renounce our duties, continue doing your duties, and you will attain meditation on Super Soul. When you attain that meditation on Super Soul, that perfection, that is the perfection of even Ashtanga Yoga. And that Ashtanga Yoga is also done in similar way. And he gives few shlokas describing Ashtanga Yoga here, just two of them here. And in the next chapter, he gives a detailed description. So we will see that as we enter the 6th chapter. But here is a brief synopsis, or just a few actions of an Ashtanga Yoga, the 27 and 28. Sparshan kritva bahirbahyam
Sparshan
Kritva bahirbahyam
chakshushchaivantare bhuvo
Chakshuschaivantare bhru
pranapanau samau kritva
Pranapanau samau
nasabhyantaracharinav
Nasabhyantaracharinav
yatendriya mano buddhir
Yatendriya mano buddhi
munir moksha parayana
Mokshaparayana
vigatecha bhayakrodho
Vigatecha bhayakrodho
yah sada mukta eva sa. So the shloka says, Sparshan kritva bahirbahyams, without touching the sense objects, which are external to him. Sparsha means touching or engaging, not bringing senses in touch with the sense objects. That means practically he has withdrawn his senses, the stage of pratyahara. This is one stage in Ashtanga Yoga. We will see the detailed stages which are described in the next chapter, but here it's a brief description. So shutting his senses from sense objects, that's how Prabhupada translates it. Then chakshuhu chaiva antara bhruvo, he fixes his focus or meditation on the mid of these eyebrows. And then prana pano samau krutva nasa bhyantara charino, he brings the inward coming air and outward going air. Prana means in, apana means out. So they are directions for it. Prana is going in and apana is coming out. He brings both of them in a suspension. Means basically he has gotten a control over breathing in the two nostrils. Nasa abhyantara charino, the nostrils. So he has controlled his breath, which is the state of pranayama in Ashtanga Yoga. So the first line actually told about pratyahar, and then it's also describing about pranayam. Then it's also told yatendriya mano buddhi. He has controlled yata, mana, indriya, and buddhi, mind, senses, and intelligence. So he has gained a control over them, which is very central of Ashtanga Yoga practice, controlling mind. And he is desiring moksha. He is not desiring something of this world. Moksha parayana. It's very clear. He is freed of desire for this world, ichha, bhaya, fear of spiritual identity, krodha, that frustration of not able to understand different spiritual or teachings of so-called spiritual teachers, which was described in the 4th chapter, vitaraga, bhaya, krodha. So such kind of material afflictions he has risen above all. So such a person, he is liberated, Arjuna. So you want to get liberated. So you continue doing your duties. And at a point when you are purified, you can take to Ashtanga Yoga. And from there you will attain me. That's the path which this middle 6 chapters actually describe. So Krishna is advocating this. Please read translation.
Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the 2 eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence, the transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated.
So Krishna is saying that this is the practice of an advanced, purified karma yogi, that he starts to meditate on super soul, which is also attained in the path of Ashtanga Yoga. So Prabhupada describes, says that about Ashtanga Yoga. Read this after explaining.
After explaining the above principles of liberation in the Supreme, the Lord gives instruction to Arjuna as to how one can come to that position by the practice of the mysticism or yoga known as Ashtanga Yoga, which is divisible into an 8-fold procedure called Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. In the 6th chapter, the subject of yoga is explicitly detailed, and at the end of the 5th, it is only preliminarily explained.
So you can note it. Prabhupada says it is preliminarily explained. Preliminary means something, upfront, in very beginning. It's told as a preface or as an introduction. So it's an introduction to Ashtanga Yoga, which Krishna is speaking these 2 verses in the end of 5th chapter. So necessarily, what it includes is one has to drive, Prabhupada says here, drive out the sense objects. So shut off the senses from sense objects. Pratyahar, it is called. Then he has also, he's also meditating on, half closed eyes and on the tip of the nose, in the middle of this eyebrow. Prabhupada says if one closes eyes fully, he will fall asleep. That happens when people don't have a higher understanding of the absolute truth. They sleep, and naturally they feel very refreshed. And naturally they feel peaceful because they had a good sleep. So, but Prabhupada says, no, that's not the purpose of yoga. The purpose in the practice of yoga is with half closed eyes, not full closed eyes. And then he also says the control of breath, pranayama. So Prabhupada also says this is the practice, and it helps one to rise above ichha, bhaya, and krodha. Read this part last, this yoga process.
This yoga process helps one become free from all kinds of fear and anger, and thus feel the presence of Supreme Soul in the transcendental situation. In other words, Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of executing yoga principles. This will be thoroughly explained in the next chapter.
So this will be thoroughly explained in the next chapter. So Prabhupada, Krishna kind of gave an introduction to the next chapter, and he himself will explain this thing. There is no question by Arjuna again in the beginning of 6th chapter. He himself starts explaining the Ashtanga Yoga path also as a continuation of this description. So, after explaining how Karma Yogi has developed an understanding and now a focus on Super Soul, and how his vision, his behavior has become more evolved, now Krishna tells this is the state in which now he understands me as the Supreme, and he attains perfect peace, Shanti. This shloka, the next shloka, Prabhupada would very famously say as the peace formula. There are many articles Prabhupada wrote in before going to West about this shloka. There is one famous this thing called make peace with God. That's one article. No God, no peace. There is one article like that. So this shloka, Prabhupada would say, this is the way to bring Shanti in the world. In the world as it was during Prabhupada's time, now it's all the more not peaceful. So much of wars, crimes at a national level, at a societal level, even at our societies, which are small homes next to each other, between sometimes in the families also, sometimes within our own self, there is so much of disturbance, quarrels, agitations. So there is so much of discord or agitation at all levels of our experience. How to bring peace is by this realization. So what is explained here is, Krishna of course says that understanding himself as the real enjoyer, proprietor and well-wisher is the real key for peace. What essentially he is explaining is, first have peace within. First strive for inner peace. Then you can bring external situations, peace in external situations. See, in this world, with a very slight agitation or a slight, provocation, there is so much of disturbance, is it not? So much of quarrel. We can see them sometimes when we travel in public transport, be it train or bus or something. People come to quarrel with what not. Hey, you moved, you brushed me little, you did not give me space. And they never knew each other, but they quarrel like so arch enemies. Sometimes even harming each other so much, is it not? So there is an inherent drive to quarrel within each of us. So that's why it's very important to bring first peace within. And how that is brought is by understanding the nature of Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the real enjoyer, because he is the real owner or a proprietor. And he is not someone who is bossing over all. In fact, though he has everything as his property, though everything is in his control, he always wishes well for us. He is trying to do benefit for us like a friend. So when one understands these three important natures of the Supreme Lord, then one becomes peaceful. That's the essential meaning of the shloka. We will see very nice Prabhupada explains this part. This is called famously as the peace formula, Shanti Sutra. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam.
Bhoktaram
Bhoktaram tapasam
Sarvaloka Maheshwaram.
Sarvalokamaheshwaram
Suhridam Sarvabhutanam.
Sukhrudam Sarvabhutanam
Jnatva Mam Shantim Ricchati.
Jnatva Mam Santim Ricchati.
So Shantim Ricchati. Ricchati means, please check. Ricchati.
One achieves.
Achieves. Ricchati means to attain or to obtain. Attain or achieve. Achieves what? Shantim Ricchati. He attains peace When does he attain peace? When he knows me, jnatva mam. Okay, knowing you means what, oh Krishna? Knowing me in these three ways. That's the higher three lines, the above three lines. The first line says, Bhoktaram yajna tapasam. I am the Bhokta. Like we hear the word Bhog. Like we offer Bhoga to the Lord. We make a dish and we offer it to the Lord. That's called Bhoga. For Lord's enjoyment. So everything we do, be it even sacrifice and austerities, whatever hard work we do in this world, we should offer it to the Supreme Lord. Are, I did the hard work and he has to gain all the fruits. No, it's not for that he only wants to enjoy. In fact, it is for our benefit because that gets purified. That is the proper way to live in this world. Do you remember any shlokas which say about first offer anything we have in life to the Lord and then accept? We have seen some shlokas in last two chapters, 3rd and 4th. Any of you know or remember? Yes, you remember? Yajnarthat, yeah? Yeah.
Yajnatat karma nonyatya
Ah.
yam karma bandhanha
So,
tatma karma kaunteya
Mukta
Mukta
Sangha
sangha
Samachara.
samachara.
So offer it to Yajna, the Vishnu, the Supreme Lord. Then it will be purified. That was that shloka. Like this, there have been many shlokas. In fact, ahead it will come. Yat karoshi yadashnasi, Krishna will say. Patram pushpam, he will say in 9th chapter. So one who offers his efforts, especially yajna and tapas, it's mentioned here, understanding that Lord is the true enjoyer. That's the first understanding. The second is Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He is the controller. He is the owner of the entire existence. Not just one part of one society, one small 2 BHK, 3 BHK, not like that. He is in fact the owner of all the planets, Sarvaloka, not of only this universe, even all the universes. His control, his proprietorship is given to across all the devatas. Sarvaloka Maheshwar. He is the true owner or proprietor. That's in the second line. The third line is how he is acting towards the jivas. Suhridam. Suhridam. Like, it means actually friend. But in Sanskrit, there are many words to the friend. There is a word like bandhu, mitra. Then suhrit means there is the word, some part of the word called hrit. Hrit means hridaya. That means one who is close to heart, like heart to heart friend, we say. So Krishna is telling, I am suhrit. I know what will actually please you or benefit you more than your own self. I know it. So suhridam, not just of humans, not just of people of this particular country, but across all the jivas, across all the time and places. So this is a very important shloka in this chapter. Can someone else take up the reading? Thank you, Mataji. Can someone else take up translation? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji will do.
Yes, Mataji, please.
A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries.
So these three things are Prabhupada explains now in the purport. Yeah. Please read the conditioned souls.
The conditioned souls within the clutches of the illusionary energy are 1 second. Illusionary energy are all anxious to attain peace in the material world, but they do not know the formula for peace, which is explained in this part of the Bhagavadgita. Lord Krishna is the beneficiary in all human activities. He is the proprietor of all planets and the demigods thereon. Shall I continue, Prabhuji?
Yeah. Please continue.
The Lord is the master of material nature, and the conditioned souls are under the stringent rules of material nature. Unless one understands these bare facts, it is not possible to achieve peace in the world, either individually or collectively.
So Prabhupada would often say about the efforts devoid of Krishna consciousness, devoid of God consciousness in general, will not bring peace. He would say, if you know God, K-N-O-W, then you will have peace. You will know peace, K-N-O-W, peace. If you have a no God, N-O, no God, then you will have no peace, N-O, peace. So he would make that famous statements. He would in fact say all the efforts of United Nations to bring the world united is only increasing the number of flags. That means they are further dividing. They are not able to unite. So there is so much of disagreement, quarrel, all that. Actually, people in this world are very naturally driven to selfish enjoyment, and quarrel and hypocrisy are a result of it, is it not? So first, one should become peaceful within, no matter how the world acts. And then he can try to bring peace in the world. He can try, Surely one should not be selfishly just staying and practicing one's own spiritual life. One should bring peace in the world by spreading Krishna consciousness. That consciousness of Supreme Lord as the owner and proprietor, and is a well-wishing friend. He is always looking to our good future. Sometimes when we are, even as devotees, when we plan for something, and when it doesn't get fulfilled, we become very disturbed. We sometimes blame the person in front. You are the cause. Sometimes we blame our own self and we become very discouraged, demotivated. And there is some blame which we do without saying the words to God also. Is it not? Oh, yeah, God, why you made this happen, oh Lord? Why this treatment towards me like this? He will have those feelings. And that kind of feeling will be a great blockage for the jiva's advancement. So instead of blaming someone outside, within, or to Supreme Lord above, one should understand that how Lord is our friend. He is our true friend. He does always for our benefit. Whatever he is doing for us, especially when we start chanting Hare Krishna, is for our benefit. So one has to have developed faith in this statement by properly associating with devotees and proper practice of devotional service. And then one can very nicely progress. So Prabhupada, after describing this peace formula, he lastly tells about the summary of the entire chapter, which he does in last shloka of every chapter. So from here on is the summary. I request Mataji, please read this from here till the end, 5th chapter.
Yeah, Prabhuji. This 5th chapter is a practical explanation of Krishna consciousness, generally known as Karma Yoga. The question of mental speculation as to how Karma Yoga can give liberation is answered herewith. To work in Krishna consciousness is to work with the complete knowledge of the Lord as the predominator. Such work is not different from transcendental knowledge. Direct Krishna consciousness is Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga is a path leading to Bhakti Yoga. Krishna consciousness means to work in full knowledge of one's relationship with the Supreme Absolute, and the perfection of this consciousness is full knowledge of Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A pure soul is the eternal servant of God, as is fragmental part and parcel. He comes into contact with Maya, illusion, due to the desire to lord it over Maya, and that is the cause of his many sufferings. As long as he is in contact with matter, he has to execute work in terms of material necessities. Krishna consciousness, however, brings one into spiritual life even while one is within the jurisdiction of matter, for it is an arousing of spiritual existence by practice in the material world. The more one is advanced, the more he is freed from the clutches of matter. The Lord is not partial toward anyone, Everything depends on one's practical performance of duties in Krishna consciousness, which in every respect helps one control the senses and conquer the influence of desire and anger. And one who stands fast in Krishna consciousness, controlling the above mentioned passions, remains factually in the transcendental stage or Brahma Nirvana. The Eightfold Yoga mysticism is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness because the ultimate purpose is served. There is a gradual process of elevation in the practice of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. But these only preface perfection by devotional service, which alone can award peace to the human being. It is the highest perfection of life. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So, in this particular last section which Mataji read, you can associate every shloka in this chapter with specific lines. He practically covers all the sections. If you are careful in observing, you can recall those sections too. So, like this, the fifth chapter, especially this last shloka, comes as a conclusion. Prabhupada, there are many very nice sections where he writes about this particular chapter, shloka, peace formula. Here is one small section I just found very interesting. He says, individual attempts at world peace are impossible without first realizing or recognizing the real center of existence, by which all people can recognize their brotherhood. Prabhupada would famously say, unless you accept the Supreme Lord as one's father, how can you treat others as your brothers? You know, they all say that we are all bhai, brothers. But how will that understanding come unless you recognize the Supreme Father? First, you have to understand the Supreme Father. Then naturally, then there will be peace. So this is how Prabhupada so nicely explains, so sensible understanding of explanation of the need for spiritual life. He says that center is Shri Krishna. And in the shloka it is told, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. People fight over things they want to enjoy, but a wise person knows that Krishna is the only real enjoyer. Second, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. People fight to control land. So much of wars or quarrels happen because of wanting to control some wealth, some land, some belongings basically. But Krishna is the true owner of all properties and the common ruler of all rulers. And lastly, can you please read this? Suhridam Sarvabhutanam, Mataji. A Krishna conscious person.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Sufrudam Sarva Bhutanam. A Krishna conscious person does not divide enemies from friends because he knows that Krishna is the friend of all living beings.
He knows. In fact, every jiva is guided by Krishna. So how can I treat him as an enemy? He has a perverted desire, but nonetheless, Lord is guiding him. Lord is sitting inside as Paramatma. So this understanding is very deep in such a jiva. So this completes the fifth chapter. Today also, we will enter the sixth chapter too. Very important section of the sixth chapter we will try to touch. So the fifth chapter, which is called as Karma Sannyasa Yoga, it is not the sannyasa of karma, that is renunciation of work, which is advised by Krishna, but it is work in the spirit of renunciation. Manasa Sannyasa, there was words like this. And by doing such kind of activity or work in the spirit of renunciation, especially understanding the role of super soul, one advances in his vision and behavior, and he will attain very high stages of Ashtanga Yoga, at which he's so purified, he in fact renounces the work also, and he becomes solely fixed on super soul. See, Krishna is telling that renunciation without engaging in supreme is very misery, is bringing misery, dukkham aptum ayogata. But at a stage when one has very well purified and he has developed that focus on super soul, that time is the time when he can renounce. That's an advanced stage. and how that stage is attained by the conventional method of Ashtanga Yoga, which is another way starting from the beginning. So that is explained in the 6th chapter. So Karma Yoga, practicing Karma Yoga, going towards the meditation on Super Soul, he attained the higher limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana, Samadhi. Now, Ashtanga Yoga, in which he will start, suppose someone is following Ashtanga Yoga, right from Yama, Niyama, Asana, he becomes purified, he is doing his duties also, but the terminologies are different. It's a different path in the sense of terminologies. The principles are very similar. You can see them very similar, but he is following Ashtanga Yoga, and he will also attain that final state of Dhyana, Samadhi, like that. So Krishna will now explain the 6th chapter in that light. So let us go to the 6th chapter. The 6th chapter is called as Dhyana Yoga by Prabhupada. So can someone else take up reading? Thank you, Mataji. Can someone else take up the reading and read this summary below? Ashtanga Yoga.
I will read, Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
Ashtanga Yoga, a mechanical meditative practice, controls the mind and the senses and focuses concentration on Paramatma, the Super Soul, the form of the Lord situated in the heart. This practice culminates in Samadhi, full consciousness of the Supreme.
So Prabhupada says in the summary, a mechanical meditative practice. It's mechanical because there are beginning stages are quite much about controlling one's senses, breath, rules. So much of mechanistic activities are there. That's why it's mechanical. At the same time, it concludes in meditation. So that is the meditative practice, which involves controlling mind and senses. That's one of the central purposes of Ashtanga Yoga, controlling mind and senses. Slowly to develop focus on Paramatma. See, what was also attained by Karma Yoga to the higher stages of Ashtanga Yoga is the goal in Ashtanga Yoga too. So Prabhupada explains that he culminates in Samadhi, full consciousness of the Supreme. So we will go to the first section of this chapter. In fact, it's a long section, but it is subdivided because Krishna first gives a kind of a preface of what all is there in Ashtanga Yoga. Then he goes to the details of each of the stages and practices. So we will see that in the first section. So Krishna explains in fact, this chapter starts with Lord directly speaking. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Anashrita karma phalam.
Anashrita karma phalam.
Karyam karma karotiya.
Karyam karma
Karotiya.
Sasanyasi cha yogi cha.
Sannyasi cha yogi cha.
Niragnirna chakriyaha.
Na niragna chakriyaha.
So Krishna is telling a person who is following Ashtanga Yoga, truly a yogi who is called, he is anashrita karma phalam. He is not taking shelter in the reactions of his action. That means he is not attached to the results of his action. Very similar to Karma Yoga. He also is not attached to the results of his action. But very interesting. Karyam karma karotiyaha. Nonetheless, he is doing actions as duties. Karya. There is something called kriya. Kriya means action. Kriya. But karya means obligatory action or duty. It should be done. Karya means you should do it. No one cannot miss it. It's a karya. It's another meaning of duty. So he understands the actions or his regulations told in the Shastra as duty. So he follows that. Such a person is called sannyasi or as a yogi. A person who follows his duties without being attached to the results of his actions or duties, he is a sannyasi. He is a yogi. So Krishna, before describing, he is telling Arjuna, the first, or in fact, the major part of Ashtanga Yoga, the first 4 or 5 sections, is to do one's duties without attachment to results. Very similar to Karma Yoga. So Krishna's purpose also is this, that Arjuna should fight without being attached to the results of the battle. So he says such a person is a sannyasi. He told in 5th chapter also, Jneyasa Nitya Sannyasi, one who is working without attachment to the results. He is a sannyasi, truly a sannyasi or a yogi. Not one who doesn't light fire. Na niragni. Traditionally, a sannyasi, he doesn't stay in a house. In house, fire is used for many purposes. One is to cook. Another is to do some sacred rituals, especially some daily yajnas which a grihastha has to do, Panchamaha yajna. One of them is like say Agnishtoma, Agnihotra, many things like that. So traditionally, a grihastha has to perform yajnas. So sannyasi doesn't, conventionally, he doesn't light fire. He doesn't do yajnas because he has crossed that stage. And akriyaha, he doesn't act in this world. It may appear that he is lazy. Is it not? So a sannyasi is not necessarily a person who doesn't light fire or he is not acting in the world, but one who does his duty without attachment. He is a sannyasi. So Krishna always stresses this principle, be it before describing Karma Yoga, now before describing Ashtanga Yoga also. Read the translation, Prabhu.
Yeah. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic,
Yes.
not he who lights no fire and performs no duty.
So Prabhupada kind of gives a summary or synopsis of what is going to come in this chapter. Please read it in this chapter.
In this chapter, the Lord explains that the process of eightfold yoga system is a means to control the mind and the senses. However, this is very difficult for people in general to perform, especially in the age of Kali. Although the eightfold yoga system is recommended in this chapter, the Lord emphasizes that the process of karma yoga or acting in Krishna consciousness is better.
So very interesting. Prabhupada gives what is going to come as the essential purpose of Krishna in describing this. He gives it well before. Actually, Krishna is not describing Ashtanga Yoga so that Arjuna follows Ashtanga Yoga. No, that's not the purpose. He is describing it so that by comparative understanding, Arjuna understands that continuing to perform duties without attachment to results, that is Bhakti Yoga, is far superior. The practices of Ashtanga Yoga are directly not relevant in the sense of those practices may not be very effectively followed, especially in today's day and age. But the principles Prabhupada also highlights, like controlling mind and senses. He will bring that, how a devotee can do this, and how when he practices devotional service, this principle is completed, is achieved as a part of his devotional practice. So Prabhupada will highlight that. So sometimes some commentators say, just see here, Krishna is describing dhyana and Prabhupada brings out bhakti here, where when it is not at all explained in any word. Sometimes people accuse like that. But because Prabhupada knows the purpose of Krishna, that he is describing Ashtanga Yoga, he's not wanting Arjuna to leave battlefield and go into forest and renounce and start practicing these kind of methods. He in fact wants Arjuna to say in his own words that how this is effective. And he will strongly suggest at the end Bhakti Yoga with performance of duties with detachment. So that will be the central purpose. Sometimes to know how a thing is better, you need to also understand about other things. Is it not? So only when you have different varieties, a simple example, if you have different varieties of rice, there is some, I'm just giving a raw example, there is some raw rice, some steamed rice, some basmati, some different varieties. When you have all of them, then when you have an experience of, oh yeah, this is better, right? So that is the purpose of this comparative analysis. In the first 6 chapters, there is a lot of comparison Krishna makes, and Prabhupada also does it. Why? So that we understand very clearly how bhakti is superior. Otherwise, we will have always that second thought. Maybe I think that path was better. Maybe I should have tried that. I did not know about it. I should have tried it. So to clear up all that maybe statements and to develop that firm faith and conviction in bhakti, Krishna explains other paths. So we will further see how else does a person in Ashtanga Yoga practice. So before we do that, can you please read this further highlighted part?
The limbs of the body do not act for self-satisfaction, but for the satisfaction of the complete whole. Similarly, the living entity who acts for satisfaction of the supreme whole and not for personal satisfaction is the perfect sannyasi, the perfect yogi.
Perfect yogi. Prabhupada also tells at the end, actually, the very purpose of controlling one's mind and senses to rise above the bodily selfishness. All the other parts of yoga, they have this one common practice or aim, that is to control one's mind and senses. Why? Because mind and senses act very selfish, and that will be to one's detriment. So how to really go towards selflessness? That's the path of progress in yoga, moving from selfishness to selflessness. And in bhakti, when a devotee is serving Krishna, he is very naturally selfless because he is not thinking about himself. He is not even much worried or conscious about himself. His worry and consciousness is about serving Krishna. So Prabhupada quotes a very famous shloka from Shikshashtakam, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains how one should not desire anything but pleasing Krishna. Can you read this? A Krishna conscious?
Yes, Prabhuji. A Krishna conscious person has no desire for self-satisfaction.
Yeah.
His criterion of success is the satisfaction of Krishna. And thus, he is the perfect sannyasi or perfect yogi. Lord Chaitanya, the highest perfectional symbol of renunciation, prays in this way.
Read the further also.
Yeah. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam, va jagat isha kamaye, mama janmani janmanishware, bhavatat bhakti rahaituki tvayi.
O Almighty Lord.
O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor to enjoy beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. What I want only is the causeless mercy of your devotional service in my life, birth after birth.
If you carefully observe, not desiring wealth, bodily enjoyment or followers, that may be understood. Not even desiring some respect or prestige, that's understandable. But here, he is telling, I am ready to be born in this world again and again. That means he is not even desiring what? He's not even desiring liberation. See, to this extent, a devotee is selfless. He doesn't even desire liberation. He's ready to take birth in this world again and again. But for what purpose? You see, what I want is your causeless mercy. So this is how we can understand the great depth of selflessness in devotional service. Yeah. So Prabhupada brings out such nice explanation of this shloka. This shloka actually told sannyasi is not someone who is selfishly sitting idle, but he performs duties with detachment. But Prabhupada made it such a high level of explanation about how bhakta is so selfless. He's ready even to go to hell and be there if that is what is a situation to please Krishna and serve Krishna. So that's the exalted nature of a devotee. Continuing such a description, Prabhupada, Krishna says, Yam sanyasamiti prahur.
येन संन्यासं तु प्राहुः
Yogam tam vidhi Pandava.
योगं तं विद्धि पाण्डव
Nahi asanyasta sankalpo.
संन्यस्तसङ्कल्प
Yogi bhavati kaschana.
Yogi bhavati
योगी भवति
kachana.
कश्चन.
So Krishna here, as he did in the 3rd chapter and 5th chapter, he will equate serving Krishna or performing his duties with detachment, which is yoga, equates it with sannyasa. So sannyasa or yoga means to actually work in this world without material desires. Please read what is called renunciation.
What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu. For one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification.
Either bit yoga or sannyasa, the renouncing the desire for sense gratification is so important. It is so fundamental. It is so necessary. So in that sense, one who has done this, he is a yogi, and such a person is also sannyasi. Sannyasi means someone who has externally renounced, but he has not renounced the desire for sense gratification. He is not truly a sannyasi. Krishna condemns such a personality or such an attitude also. So Prabhupada in this purport, which is, please read the highlighted parts, he highlights about this equating about yoga or devotional service with sannyasa. Read it.
Real sannyasa yoga or bhakti means that one should know his constitutional position as the living entity and act accordingly. The living entity has no separate independent identity. Therefore, when one is in complete knowledge, one ceases all material sense gratification or renounces all kinds of sense gratificatory activities. This is practiced by the yogis who restrain the senses from material attachment. But a person in Krishna consciousness has no opportunity to engage his senses in anything which is not for the purpose of Krishna. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is simultaneously a sannyasi and a yogi.
Yogi is already very naturally. Yes, continue. The real aim.
The real aim is for a living entity to give up all selfish satisfaction and to be prepared to satisfy the Supreme. One who has no information of the Supreme must therefore be engaged in self-satisfaction because no one can stand on the platform of inactivity. All purposes are perfectly served by the practice of Krishna consciousness.
So before Krishna told that one who has no attachment to results of action, karma phala, but he does his duties very diligently. Now he told one should be freed from the desires. Asyanyastya sankalpaha, sanyasta sankalpaha. Be freed from one's desires, sense gratification desires, which are very, very basic for Ashtanga Yoga. Now he goes to little details of it, one level more detail of Ashtanga Yoga. Arurukshor Munir Yogam.
Arurukshor Munir Yogam.
योगं
Karma Karana Muchyate.
Karma
कर्म
Karanam
कारणमुच्यते
Yoga Rudhasya Tasyaiva.
Yoga Rudhasya
योगारूढस्य
Tasyaiva
तस्य
Shamah Karana Muchyate.
Samah
क्षमः
Karanam Uchyate.
कारणमुच्यते.
So there are two keywords called as Arurukshu, sometimes called as Yoga Rurukshu and Yoga Rudha. These are technical terms from Ashtanga Yoga line of thought. So Yoga Rurukshu and Yoga Rudha. These are two clear stages of one's progress in the path of Ashtanga Yoga. So in Yoga Rurukshu, a person is acting, is doing his duties, but a higher stage, which is the stage of Yoga Rudha, he is not doing duties. He stopped all his actions. So in the Yoga Rurukshu, Krishna says, Karma Karana Muchyate. He has to perform one's duties. That will be the way in which he will progress in the first stage. And in the second stage called Yoga Rudha, Krishna says Shamaha. Can someone see the word to word meaning of Shamaha? Shama. Got it? Shamaha. Please check.
Cessation of all material activities.
Cessation. Cessation means what, Mataji? Cessation.
To put a stop.
To put stop, Prabhuji.
Yeah, to stop. To stop all material activities will be his sadhana that time. Shamaha karanam uchyate. So there is a stage when one has to renounce actions. That's an advanced stage. What is that stage called? What is that stage called?
Yoga Rudha.
Yoga Rudha.
Otherwise, the beginning stage is Yoga Rurukshu. So please read the translation, Prabhu, for one. Who is reading? Please read.
Gosh, it's raining.
For one who is a neophyte in the
Sorry,
state.
Prabhuji, I was in mute. Sorry,
Okay,
sorry.
sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
So for one who is a neophyte, is in the eightfold yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities, it is said to be the means.
The means, that's the way in which a person will progress. So Prabhupada explains this, the process.
The process of linking oneself with the Supreme is called yoga. It may be compared to a ladder for attaining the topmost spiritual realization. This ladder begins from the lowest material condition of the living entity and rises up to the perfect self-realization in pure spiritual life. According to various elevations, different parts of the ladder are known by different names. But all in all, the complete ladder is called yoga and may be divided into three parts, namely Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. The beginning of the ladder is called Yoga Rukshu stage, and the highest rung is called Yoga Rudha.
Yoga Rudha. So essentially, there are two clear parts, Yoga Rurukshu, which is called beginning stage. So on the screen, I am showing under the Yoga Rurukshu stage, among the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, the first 4 of them, in fact, sometimes the 5th is also added into this, that is Pratyahar. So they all come under Yoga Rurukshu. So Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, sometimes Pratyahar also added here. The second stage, which is Yoga Rudha, which is an advanced or perfectional stage, is having Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So Prabhupada talked about a ladder, which is yoga ladder. We have often seen that. So in the full yoga ladder, we have seen in which it starts with the animal life. You may remember, and now what I'm showing is a different representation of it, just for making us understand the Ashtanga Yoga terminologies. But all the beginning stages are called Yoga Rurukshu. So from the animal life, a person starts following the Vedic scriptures. That's when he's in Karma Kanda, but his goal is Swarga. And when he starts following Karma Yoga, he renounces the fruits of activities. That's also in Yoga Rurukshu, but it's a progress towards the higher stage. So Karma Yogi, he starts following this renouncing fruits of activities, but he's continuing to render his duties. So now the traditional yoga system says that the next a person renounces his Jnana Yoga, and that's when he even, you can see here, knowledge about Brahman, speculative knowledge, austerities. Then comes Dhyana or Ashtanga Yoga, which is when a person starts becoming conscious of Paramatma. And here is the stage called Yoga Rudha. So when it is described, the Dhyana Yoga, the 6th chapter, it is actually referring to the Yoga Rudha stage of Ashtanga Yoga. And that's why the Dhyana word is used, which is one of the advanced stages of Ashtanga Yoga. in which a person is meditating on Paramatma. And of course, when one understands Bhagavan, he ascends to the highest stage, that is Bhakti Yoga. So we have seen in the 5th chapter, a person who is practicing Karma Yoga has developed an understanding of Paramatma. That means he has ascended to what platform? In this ladder.
Yoga Rudha.
Yoga Rudha. Did he go in a step-by-step fashion? After Karma Yoga, did he ascend to the next step? What's the next step
No,
after Karma?
Prabhuji.
What's the
Jnana.
next step after Karma Yoga?
Jnana.
Jnana. Did he go to that? No.
No.
That's the key thing you should notice here. So Krishna said, you do Karma Yoga and you understand Paramatma and you actually come to the Dhyana stage. You come to Yoga Rudha stage. This is the specific path Krishna explains in the first 6 chapters. Okay. So you can see in this side route also Yoga Rukshu, Yoga Rudha. So the same ladder when explained in these terminologies becomes this. And there are subcategories: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. They are all coming in this terminologies. Okay, I hope you all understand these 2 ways of describing the same kind of evolution of consciousness. So,
Prabhuji, can you please show that slide once again? I have one question, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
There are dotted lines.
Where?
Yes, the Karma Yoga to Bhakti Yoga, Prema, and then Karma self. So what is that bold line and what is that?
Okay, that's a different way of explaining evolution of consciousness. Selfishness, Prabhupada told, no, in the purport just before, how a person has to rise from bodily selfishness to love to Krishna. So love to Krishna, which is the real selflessness, it comes at the stage of bhakti, but it's an evolution from selfishness to selflessness. This ladder is movement of that conscious transformation.
So
of that consciousness.
it does not mean that we can just go from first stage to the last stage, right, Prabhuji? Karma. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not really.
Okay, Prabhuji, understood.
Okay. And in Karma Yoga, it's a practice, So we are practicing devotional service. We have gotten at least a theoretical understanding of Bhagavan, and we have especially gotten the shelter of spiritual master. And that's why this path of progress has become faster. But nonetheless, there is purification happening according to this. We have to also become renounced from the actions, results of the action. Is it not? And we have to slowly develop that meditation of the Supreme Lord. And that becomes very natural in Bhakti. And Prabhupada will explain how that progress in Dhyana is easily attained by Bhakta. We know in Bhakti, Shravana, Kirtana, and what follows next?
Smarana.
Vishnu Smarana.
Smarana is
Smarana.
Vishnu Smarana. Smarana is remembering Krishna, which is meditation in another word, is it not? So Prabhupada says a Krishna conscious person, however, is situated from beginning on the platform of meditation because he always thinks of Krishna. So one who has heard properly, he has chanted properly, he is able to remember Krishna, is always, he has ascended to this platform of meditation. Okay, so this is how Prabhupada shows that bhakti naturally brings you through those results which other yoga paths promise or aim at. And bhakti delivers much higher than that. We will see this. Okay, so are all of us on the same understanding, or at least together? Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, let's go ahead. Yada hi nendriyartheshu
Yada hi
Nendriyateshu
na karmashu anusajjate.
Na karmashu anusajjate.
anusajjate.
Sorry, na karmasu anusajjate.
Na karmasu anusajjate.
anusajjate.
Sarva sankalpa sannyasi
Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi
Yoga Rudhastadochyate.
Yoga
Yoga
Rudhastadochyate.
Rudhastadochyate.
So Krishna defines that advanced stage of Yoga Rudha is what it is explained here. Yoga Rudha is someone who is not attached to Indriyartha, that is sense enjoyment, the sense object. He is not even attached to karma. Na karmasu anusajjate. He is not acting as beauties. He has taken to vanaprastha sannyas. That's the highest stage, Yoga Rudha. And lastly, Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi. He has even renounced all desires. He has renounced the sense objects, Indriyartha. He has renounced the actions, karma. And lastly, he has renounced what? The last item which he has renounced?
Fruits of action.
No. That happened in the very beginning. So he has renounced sense objects or fruits of action. That's the first thing, first line. Then he has renounced karma, that is the action, the very action also he has renounced. And very importantly, he has renounced the desire to enjoy. Sarva Sankalpa Sanya. Sankalpa means desire. Sankalpa, like any activity we want to do, we take a sankalpa. Like before I want to start chanting, I take a sankalpa. I will sit and chant. I will at least keep my phone in silent mode, if not switch off. At least I will not operate the social media. Some resolve one takes. That's called sankalpa. So sarva sankalpa, the inclination to engage in the world, material enjoyment, that he has renounced. Read the translation. A person
is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities.
Read the below highlighted part.
When a person is fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself, and thus he is no longer engaged in sense gratification or in fruitive activities. Otherwise, one must be engaged in sense gratification, since one cannot live without engagement. Without Krishna consciousness, one must always seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities.
So, Prabhu, I want to ask in general to all devotees here, what is the meaning of self-centered and what is extended selfish activity? We know selfish activity. What does it mean, self-centered or extended?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
To keep Krishna in every activity, Lord.
No, here it's described selfish activity.
Prabhu,
Surely they are material activities. They are not Krishna-centered or devotional activities. So in that there is some categorization told, self-centered and extended. Yeah, please, someone was saying.
So we are focusing everything, putting us in the center, Prabhuji, self-centered.
Yes.
We want everything for us.
Yes. Okay. That
Extended selfish activities probably is like not only for me, but for my family.
Okay. Extend it further.
Extended further, yes, yeah.
No,
for
so
my
I'm
society,
asking you, extend further. Continue.
For my society, for my nation, like that.
That is extended. But the center is selfish. That is center is me only. In Ishwarnishad, this was described. Self-centered means I want it. I want to eat, I want to sleep, I want to have best comforts. Now extended means someone who is in my next proximity, who are there. Actually, he understands that they are there to satisfy me. They are for my enjoyment. Who are all there? My family members, my spouse, my children, my parents, and my society, the housing society, my company people are all should be treating me the center. And further, that center, the periphery, we can keep expanding. The whole world is for my enjoyment. I can use it the way I like. So this is extended selfish enjoyment. Interestingly, everyone feels he is the center and everyone have their circles. And very naturally all these circles collide with each other. And that's the reason of so much of interrelationship problems, quarrels, so much. So that's self-centered and extended. So when we read, we can note what actually Prabhupada means by them. He means a lot by using a simple word. So we should pay attention. Please read the further. One who has
no such realization must mechanically try to escape material desires before being elevated to the top rung of the yoga ladder.
This is the way yoga path is. He tries to mechanically shut down his material desires and try to ascend the yoga ladder. But bhakta, it happens very naturally. So one of the very essential aim of yoga path, Ashtanga yoga path, is to control one's mind and senses, especially mind control. And Krishna explains that in the next few shlokas. Up till 9th shloka, this goes. Explanation of mind control and the benefit of mind control in the yoga. So very famous shloka, you all must have heard this, these shlokas. Let's recite them. Uddhared atmanatmanam.
Uddhared atmanatmanam.
Natmanam avasadayet.
Natmanam avasadayet.
Atmaya hi atmano bandhur.
Atmaiva hi atmano bandhur.
Atmaiva ripuratmanaha.
Atmaiva ripuratmanaha.
So many times Atma is there. Can someone count?
No problem.
1, 2, 3, 4.
In the text,
7 times Atma is repeated in this shloka. So Atma, Atma, Atma. But every Atma has a different meaning. That's the important, a very interesting way in which the shloka is. But essentially it means Uddharet. खुद का उद्धार करो, उद्धार हो जाओ. कैसे? How to get uddhar? By the use of Atma. For Atma, you elevate your mind. You elevate yourself by yourself. You elevate your Atma by Atma. Otherwise, you will degrade your Atma by Atma. The literal meaning of it. But actually, if we see very carefully, the meaning of Atma here is you elevate yourself by higher self or controlled mind. Otherwise, your lower self, that is uncontrolled mind, will degrade you. Natmanam avasadayet. Avasana means to degrade, to die, like dehavasana, we sometimes say when a person dies. Why is that so? Atmaiva hi atmano bandhu. Mind is the friend of the soul. Which type of mind? We will see that. And the same mind is also enemy. Ripu. Ripu means enemy of that soul. So please read the translation.
One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well.
Yeah. See, from here on, Krishna will speak a lot about mind. We should note it. Very, very helpful for devotional service also. Read the highlighted part, the word Atma.
The word Atma denotes body, mind and soul, depending upon different circumstances. In the yoga system, the mind and the conditioned soul are especially important. Since the mind is a central point of yoga practice, Atma refers here to the mind.
Little below.
The mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of nescience.
Mire means, actually, it's a very interesting term. Sometimes there are quicksands, in a marshy area. Quicksand means there is some mud, but because of some, special nature of moisture and water around, if someone goes into it, it sucks within, and sometimes you can see animals stuck in it and they die too. They completely die. Everything is pulled down. They get submerged. If one tries to get out of it, it pulls you inside. No, that's called Maya, quagmire. That sometimes Prabhupada uses that word. So this world is so very pulling down. It's very difficult to get out of this world. Especially mind is something which will drag one down. You have to think with your mind, plan with your mind, and that very mind is so corrupt that it can pull you down. See, what is the way out? Can you imagine our mind and intelligence which is corrupt? How can one get out of it? One has to take their help. How to take their help? So Prabhupada explains, one should
not degrade oneself by attraction to sense objects. The more one is attracted by sense objects, the more one becomes entangled in material existence. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness.
So the more one engages in actually sense objects, one can understand that how one gets more and more and more caught. Like sometimes you will see in a spider web, a small insect gets caught. The more it tries to get out, it gets further and further caught. It's very difficult unless one really knows the actual way to get out. It's very difficult to get out. People understand, mind, it makes hell out of heaven and heaven out of hell. Basically, the first statement is often famous. It can make really the situation so worse. Is it not? So they understand it, but they really don't know how to get out of it. Is it not? So it's like a spider. It's so entangling. The more one enjoys or falls into sense enjoyment, sense objects, the more one becomes entangled. That's why in the Shastras it is told so much, mind is the cause of bondage. Karanam bandha moksha. Your mind can be the cause of bondage or mind can be the cause of liberation. It depends how we train the mind. That's why the next shloka Krishna says about how to train the mind. So Prabhupada says mind should be engaged in Krishna consciousness to make it the help for liberation. We will take 2 more shlokas and end soon. Okay. I think today there is no shloka test as I have heard. So we will try to complete this section and end for today. Another 5 minutes. Bandhuratmatmanastasya.
Atmatmanastasya.
Bandhuratmatmanastasya. You can even break Bandhur Atmaha Atmanastasya. Like that also. Yenatmaiva Atmanajita. Anatmanastu Shatrutve. Varteta Atmaiva Shatruvat. So Krishna says, Bandhuratmatmanastasya. The mind, which is also called Atma, can become Bandhu. Bandhu means friend. When we conquer it, when we win over it, when we actually control it. Otherwise, it becomes a Shatru. Arjuna, don't think the people who are in front are the real Shatrus. Actual Shatru is our uncontrolled mind. Mind will become our Shatru when it is Anatmanaha. What's the meaning of Anatmana? Please check. Anatmanaha. What is the meaning of Anatmanaha? I have highlighted on the screen.
One who has failed to control the mind.
One who has failed. For him, it becomes a Shatru, Shatruva. Can someone else take up the reading translation? We just have 2 more slokas.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, please do.
For him
Yeah.
who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for the one who has failed to do so, his minds will remain the greatest enemy.
Read the purport.
The purpose of practicing Eightfold Yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga for show is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and his mission are spoiled.
As
long as one's mind remain an unconquered enemy, one has to serve the direction of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his dictation.
So why do we need to control mind? Actually, the real purpose is to realize Paramatma, which was also done in Karma Yoga, please remember. So how to understand the presence of Paramatma, hear the voice of Paramatma, focus one's consciousness on Paramatma only when this mind is peaceful. It's controlled. You see, sometimes there is a small water reservoir or some lake. When it is very much disturbed, one cannot see. It looks very, muddy, is it? But when we allow it to settle, that's when the mud particles go down and one can clearly see, yeah, here is what is this. So that clarity comes when mind is peaceful. So the real purpose of a yogi's control of mind is to meet Paramatma, focus on Paramatma. That's the goal. So Prabhupada highlights that. In fact, before going to that, Prabhupada in fact says, one who cannot control mind lives with the great enemy. Can you imagine? Someone who doesn't wish well for us, who always is desiring our degradation, or how we can fall off, our harm. Can someone think to stay with them? No. But we are all having that particular stage. You see, mind which is trying to degrade us, we are thinking it is as our friend and we are living with an enemy. So this should make us become aware of our very strange situation and try to reform this mind by proper control. So how to do that control will come later. And in fact, Prabhupada will offer most practical solutions to control mind. But Krishna has given a principle here. So the first 10 shlokas up till 9, they give a kind of introduction or a prelude to Ashtanga. And then there are another 18 shlokas describing the actual practices of Ashtanga. So Krishna has given principle of controlling mind so as to realize Paramatma. So that's why the next shlokas 7, 8, 9 describe the benefit of control of mind. And you can naturally expect here, the first important benefit is one can understand or focus on Paramatma. Jitatmana prashantasya.
Jitatmana prasantasya
Paramatma samahita.
Paramatma samahita
Shitoshna sukha dukkeshu.
Sitoshna sukha
Tatha
dukkeshu
mana pamanayo. So Jitatmana means one who has conquered mind. For him, it becomes very peaceful, prashanta. And very naturally, he meets or realizes Paramatma, Paramatma samahita. That's the first and most important benefit of controlling. One who has controlled mind, for him, Paramatma is just a flip of it. It's very naturally gotten. So it is so very important. That's why. So Shitoshna Sukha Dukkeshu Tatha Mana Apamana means he is able to easily receive the dualities of the world. Shita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukkha, Mana, Apamana, going from bodily level to even egoistic level. Shita, Ushna to Man and Apamana. It becomes very easy for him to receive when he has controlled his mind. Read the translation for one.
For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same.
All the same. So Prabhupada tells a little about Paramatma and all. Please read the highlighted part.
Actually, every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. When the mind is misled by the external illusionary energy, one becomes entangled in material activities.
Mm.
Therefore, as soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one should be considered to have already reached the destination.
Yes. So read the further part.
The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of Paramatma or Super Soul.
Super Soul. So that's the benefit of mind. So another benefit coming in the next shloka, Krishna says, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma
Jnana
Jnana
Vijnana
Vijnana
Triptatma
Triptatma
Kutastho Vichitendriyaha
Kutasto
Kutasto Vichitendriya
Vichitendriya
Yukta Ityuchyate Yogi
Yukta
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 Ityuchate
Ityuchate Yogi
Samaloshrashma Kanchanaha.
Samaloshtrama
Samalostrama Kanchana.
Such a person who has controlled mind, he can really relish the jnana and vijnana, the theoretical knowledge and the realized knowledge. He is unwavering in his duties or in his focus. Kutastaha. He has controlled his senses. Especially the last line, it says, Sama Lostra Ashma Kanchanaha. He treats stone, lostra, ashma, that is some metal or iron, and kanchana, that is gold. Everything he treats equally. He sees all of them are matter. Maybe something is valued a lot because some money is traded with it a lot. But for him, it is as good as some pebbles of stone or some metal, iron or something like that. So he doesn't value matter differently. He sees everything as matter. It's a very high stage, yoga rooted stage is explained here. A person is said to be
established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when
Mm.
he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it to be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same.
Gold as the same. So Prabhupada talks about difference between bookish knowledge, jnana, and vijnana, and how a devotee realizes that is vijnana by his practice of bhakti. Read the highlighted part, book knowledge.
Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless.
Yes, Prabhupada highlights that important point. Only just knowing some facts but not following it, sincerely trying to apply by the practice of devotionals, especially service, serving Guru. That is what actually converts the jnana into vijnana. The grace of the Lord received by service rendered by a devotee, that converts jnana into vijnana. So Prabhupada says, by realized knowledge, read this.
By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions. But by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he is surrendered to Krishna.
So one who has gained control over mind, is someone who has realized the Shastras. Otherwise, just an academic, mere theoretical knowledge, it cannot protect a person from allurements, temptations, and all. So we will end with this shloka. It's just a simple translation is there. Suhran mitrari udasina.
Suhram mitrari
Madhyastadvishya bandhushu.
Madhyastadeva bandhushu.
Sadhushu api cha papeshu.
Sadhushu api cha papeshu.
Samabuddhir vishishyate.
Samaviddhir vishishyate.
Earlier we saw his equal vision to the things of this world, be it stone, be it some metal, say iron, ashma, or be it even gold or diamonds also. All of them he treats equally. There are many stories of great saints you may recollect from your own hearing or some tradition, where some great soul, he did not differentiate between stone and gold. I remember a great soul's history. I think his name was Purandara Das, great Vishnu Bhakta. There was some allurement or test by some king who tried to give a lot of gold to his wife. And when he saw that his wife is given a gold, then he told, "Arey, what is it? This is you have acquired, and this is not at all, useful for our service to the Lord. In fact, it is binding." He had that vision. It is as good as some stone. Now, why are you acquiring so much of stone? Put it out, he told to his wife. And she followed, being a very religious wife, obedient wife. And that's when that king understood, he doesn't have any affinity towards wealth of this world. It's a very high stage. Nonetheless, we can see some saintly people exhibiting it. Prabhupada, at the other side, he used all the wealth in service of Lord, but did not become attached to it. So he was at another side of using things in service, but not getting attached. In fact, he was so specific, giving attention to even cement bags for building temple of Krishna, that he treated cement bags as if they're gold biscuits. That time cement was so rare, especially during that particular government. They were not allowed to build much of the buildings or temples, what to talk about them. But yet Prabhupada was trying to get the cement bags, especially in Vrindavan, and he was telling his disciples, count them as if you count money for Krishna. He told that. So Prabhupada treated everything to be used for service of Krishna, and he was very careful to protect the assets for Krishna. That's another way Prabhupada applied this principle. Now in this shloka, it is told how not just the things, but how to see different types of people equally. What all types of people we come across? Suhran, very close to our heart, like friends. Mitraha, friend. Ari, Ari means enemy. Udasina, some people who are neutral, just they are hi, bye, like that. Some are madhyastha. Madhyastha means someone who is concerned about us. If there are some quarrels with, if we have quarrels with others, they will come to mediate. They are called mediators. Or dveshi, some who envy us. Or some bandhu, some relative. Or even sadhu, who are pious people, saintly people. Or papis, who are sinful people. All these people, this person who has controlled mind sees equally, samabuddhir. Now, seeing equally doesn't mean he hears from all of them, or he respects in the same way all of them. No, he sees that, okay, they have acquired specific attitudes because of their association with this world, but Paramatma is there in everyone. So he sees that, but he associates with those who are favorable for his spiritual progress. Okay, so he has that equal vision. Read this translation through a person.
A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral mediators, the envious friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind.
So we concluded here. Prabhupada has not given elaboration on this, but it's a very direct result of controlling mind. So today, what did we saw in the 6th chapter? Krishna in the beginning explained the sannyasa equaled with yoga, that is acting with detachment, following one's duties. And in that path, at one point of time, when has developed sufficient purification, he renounces the result of action surely. He renounces the duties, actions also. He renounces the desire to enjoy. These three things he renounces, and that's when he ascends to an advanced stage called Yoga Rudha. Earlier it was Yoga Rurukshu, then he went into Yoga Rudha. And a very important principle of yoga path is controlling mind, making it one's friend, not an enemy by not controlling it. And what benefits he receives, that is communion with the Paramatma, that is association of realization of Paramatma, and especially equanimity, seeing everyone equally, the things equally, the people equally. That's the natural result of control of mind. And we will see further the practices of Ashtanga Yoga Krishna describes from Shloka 10 onwards. We will see them in the session day after tomorrow, Friday. So we will meet at that time, 6:30 p.m. Thank you very much for your attention and audience. We will meet on Friday, 6:30.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavadgita ki jai. Hare
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare